This bullied fatso got summoned to another world and survives only because of his disgusting smell. But one day, he eats a fruit that awakens a cheat ability and ultimate Rizz. Now he can clap any girl he wants. Seiichi is a pathetic, ugly loser who sleeps in class floor. His classmates constantly bullied him, calling him ugly and making fun of his fat body. One day, a mysterious voice suddenly spoke across the school and forced everyone who was standing to sit down instantly. Like an invisible pressure pushed them into their seats. The voice introduced itself as the ruler and announced that the whole class would be taken from Earth to another world, where they would be treated as heroes. The students panicked, but the ruler tried to calm them by promising respect and honor. Right after that, every student received powers, including magic skills and a way to view their own status. Seiichi received the same system, but he didn't understand how it worked yet. Then the ruler gave a rule. In 10 minutes, the transfer would begin, and everyone had to form teams of 3. The classroom turned chaotic as students rushed to make groups. Seiichi tried to join a team, but when others checked his status, they laughed because he's still trash. They rejected him immediately, leaving him alone and humiliated. When the transfer started, all the students disappeared to the new world except Seiichi. The ruler focused on him and said that because he was left alone, he would be given a unique special ability that no one else had. After that, Seiichi was finally sent to the other world. He tried to see it as a new start, but he quickly collapsed from exhaustion and hunger because he hadn't eaten for 5 days, until he saw a worm and tried to eat. Suddenly, something stuck his back. Finally, he noticed a strange fruit nearby, checked it with his inspection skill, and learned it was a fruit of evolution. He ate it, even though it tasted extremely bitter. A system message said the evolution effect had started, but at first nothing seemed different. Soon after, Seiichi noticed a monkey in the trees and realized it was the one that had hit him earlier. When he checked its status, it was level 120, while he was still level 1. Since he would die instantly if attacked, he stayed cautious. Later, after the monkeys left, he returned to the area and found many energy fruits scattered on the ground. He used his void storage ability to collect all of them. He also found a high-grade healing potion and stored it too. In another area, the rest of the classmates gathered and talked about the new world. One girl pointed out that Seiichi seemed to have been sent somewhere different from everyone else, which made the group not even care a bit. Back in the forest, Seiichi wandered around and ate many fruits, especially anything that looked unusual. Eventually, he became poisoned. Feeling hopeless, he started eating even more because he believed he might die anyway. Later, he noticed he still had 2 energy fruits left, and suspected those fruits were the reason he survived so long. When he angrily questioned whether the fruits actually did anything, the system responded that new effects had been applied and his rank increased. Right after that, monkeys attacked him from behind. He got badly injured and used the high-grade healing potion to recover and stand again. The monkey attacked a second time and almost killed him. But even his body odor is trash like his skill and instantly killed the monkey. Seiichi survived, collected the monster's drops, gained its skills, and found a book explaining that these monkeys were intelligent dungeon monsters. He realized his special ability from the ruler likely let him read the book. Then the system announced that evolution would begin. Seiichi experienced extreme pain as his body changed. His weight dropped quickly, his body became thinner, and his bones shifted. When it ended, the system said his evolution was complete and added 1000 points to every stat. His status increased massively, but it had only evolved once, and there were still many stages remaining. Even after killing a level 120 monster, he was still level 1. 5 months passed, as Seiichi survived in the forest using the knowledge from the books. One day, a level 311 wolf attacked him, but Seiichi defeated it using his speed and magic. The system said he gained water magic, and he received another book about wolves. Immediately after, evolution started again, with even worse pain. The system showed only 1 evolution stage remained, which made him nervous about what would happen when it finished. At that moment, monkeys appeared and surrounded him, and a huge gorilla arrived. The gorilla could speak and challenged him, not allowing him to escape. Seiichi checked her status and saw she was level 775. And he understood the monsters likely came to reclaim what he had taken. The gorilla attacked, and Seiichi was sent flying. He avoided some attacks, which surprised her, and he realized she was female. He tried different attacks, including water magic and a dagger, but none worked. One of his attacks even reflected back onto him. The gorilla attacked him repeatedly and nearly killed him. Seiichi forced himself to keep standing, and when the gorilla attacked again, the same trash smell from his abdomen. This time, it did not kill her, but it shocked her. She became deeply interested in him and introduced herself as Sara. Instead of killing him, she decided she wanted to marry him. Sara carried Seiichi to her cave, fed him, and treated him as her husband. She gave him clothes and showed him that she was intelligent because she had learned from books she found. She even gave him a book that listed household tasks, and Seiichi started learning them. Even so, Seiichi stayed focused on escaping the forest. When Sara left to hunt, Seiichi tried to run. A giant spider appeared, but Sara returned instantly and destroyed it, then checked if he was hurt. Seiichi realized she genuinely cared about him. Later, Sara mentioned going out with other monkeys to search for energy fruits. She explained that energy fruits strengthen someone, but eating 11 causes death. Seiichi admitted he had eaten 10 already. Sara said she had also eaten 10, and revealed she had been saving those fruits for her future husband. But someone stole them. Seiichi confessed it was him and apologized, saying he was starving. Sara forgave him and said it being him didn't matter. Then she said they needed to marry properly. She asked if he hated her, and he admitted he didn't. After that, Sara left again, and Seiichi immediately ran away. Meanwhile, the rest of the class was still training as a group, doing practice fights with their instructor. Even though they wanted to jump into real missions, he kept blocking it. The students got frustrated, saying repeating sword practice all day won't make them true heroes. The instructor kept it simple. If they don't learn correct sword control first, they'll mess up in a real fight. Everyone already knew the king's order was to defeat the Demon King. But even with their boosted bodies, the students still didn't have proper skill. They acted confident like it would be easy, but the instructor didn't agree. He briefly thought about letting them hunt small monsters, then changed the plan and forced another full day of drills, telling them to focus on improving step by step. At the same time, Seiichi ran even farther into the forest. Sara chased him in a panic, trying to stop him from going into a certain forbidden area. She kept warning him, but he ignored her and ended up in front of an eerie cave where the air felt wrong. When he heard her getting closer, he panicked and rushed inside anyway. Deeper in, he found a strange door. He opened it and saw a skeleton sitting there calmly, like it had been waiting. The skeleton talked as if a human reaching this place must be extremely powerful. Seiichi checked its status and first saw something harmless. Then the skeleton told him to check again, and the number jumped to an insane level, 1,500. It attacked instantly. Before Seiichi could be hit, Sara rushed in and took the strike for him. Seiichi tried to help her, but she stopped him and made it clear she couldn't be saved. She explained she was already gone, and only staying around for a short time because of her own power. She protected him because he treated her like a normal person and made her feel happy. Before fading, she asked him for one last thing. She wanted to see him smile. Seiichi forced a smile for her. Right after that, the skeleton started talking like it was judging the bond between Seiichi and Sara. Seiichi snapped and attacked, but the skeleton blocked him easily. It pushed him with one question: were his feelings real? Seiichi remembered everything they went through together, and admitted the truth: he genuinely loved her. As soon as he admitted it, Sara began glowing. Seiichi kept fighting. He tried using magic, but the skeleton summoned something like a gate that erased every spell. Seiichi used instant movement to get close and land a sword hit. Instead of getting angry, the skeleton acted satisfied, like it got the answer it wanted. Then it changed shape into a young girl and vanished. Seiichi was left standing there, realizing something strange had just happened because of real love. After that, Sara called him closer and said she wanted to be his wife. Seiichi agreed. The moment he accepted, Sara's glow became blinding and her body transformed into a human girl. Seiichi was shocked, and she confirmed she was still Sara. Soon after, Seiichi was shown the skeleton's history. Around 15,000 years ago, it had been a noble sword teacher who trained heroes. But an emperor's plot destroyed his life, and the whole country betrayed him, including his fiancée. Only one girl stayed loyal, Maria, and she died protecting him. That loss broke him and turned him into a monster. The story left Seiichi and Sara feeling heavy, but Seiichi believed the pain had finally ended because the skeleton could now be with Maria again. Not long after, they found a treasure chest. Seiichi pulled out clothes for Sara, then kept checking the rest. He gained new skills and noticed he could finally use magic in a cleaner, controlled way. Sara asked if all those abilities were really his, and Seiichi said they felt like blessings from above. Later, Seiichi earned a huge amount of experience and triggered his last evolution. He didn't look wildly different, but he felt like his whole existence had changed. He called it his final form. Sara said she couldn't see a big change, but she felt he looked better. Seiichi said he wanted to leave the forest soon, and Sara promised she'd go with him anywhere. Then a loud sound came from above. Something like a flying ship descended, and a man appeared, introducing himself as Edward, the dungeon administrator. He explained they were the first ones to clear this dungeon, so they earned rewards, 10 days of travel supplies and tools to grow energy fruits. Sara got new clothes. Seiichi received a helmet that seemed pointless. Edward said he could send them out, and before Seiichi could react, the transfer activated. When they appeared outside, the world's beauty shocked both of them. Seiichi felt like his real journey started now. Somewhere else, a girl stood among defeated monsters and calmly said she had warned them not to get in her way. Sara suggested heading to the nearest city, and Seiichi agreed, planning to carry some energy fruits and maybe find his classmates there. On the road, a level 88 slime attacked. Even though slimes sound weak, this world made even basic monsters deadly. Seiichi dodged and sliced it in half, and the force of the attack tore up the area around them. He stared, surprised by how strong he'd become. After the fight, he gained experience and a skill card that boosted him further. Then the helmet started glowing. When he tossed it away, it changed into a robe. A message appeared, congratulating him for leveling up, and warning that he was slowly drifting away from humanity. It also said monsters would no longer see him as one of them. Then the message destroyed itself and burned his hair. Seiichi put on the robe, and they continued. Eventually, they reached the city. Seiichi was nervous at the entrance, but he walked through without any problem. Sara followed too. The guards rushed them through inspection and explained the next step involved the dungeon system. One guard warned Seiichi not to join the guild without thinking. If anything felt off, he should leave immediately and stop making reckless choices. Inside the guild, the place felt insane. A person wearing women's clothes was being beaten, and later the hall looked even more disturbing, with people doing painful, weird things and acting completely unhinged. Seiichi didn't want Sara seeing it, so he covered her eyes and tried to leave. But a strange man appeared behind them and introduced himself as the guild leader. He welcomed them and practically forced them inside. The person who had been attacked earlier later introduced herself as the guild president and asked why Seiichi wanted to register. Seiichi said he was searching for his classmates. She explained, this dungeon worked like the world's main information center, so he could find anything he needed there. Sara held on to Seiichi and encouraged him to register, saying he'd end up liking it. Seiichi agreed because she wanted it, and the guild leader acted like he already knew they would choose this place. Before the registration could finish, a weird group walked in, noticed Seiichi was new, and surrounded him. They kept pushing him until they dragged him outside and brought him to their leader. They demanded he show his real face, then reacted by saying he was surprisingly good looking. Their leader started changing clothes in a bizarre way, and even began dancing, while the group acted like they were about to do something to him and claimed it wouldn't hurt much. Seiichi panicked and ran for his life. He escaped across rooftops while they chased him, and after a while, they finally stopped and gave up. Seiichi eventually showed up at the guild again, and everyone looked at him like he'd returned from the dead. Sara told him he'd done something nobody else had managed, but Seiichi didn't act impressed. The guild explained they needed to run checks on him, basically tests that decide what kind of jobs an adventurer is fit for. They also explained the main job types: monster fights, guarding work, and small errands. Iris said they needed a higher-ranked person to oversee the process, and Seiichi quietly worried that stronger adventurers might be even more unpredictable. A staff slammed the ground, and a confident woman stepped in. The guild introduced her as Altria, a ranked adventurer. She normally refused to supervise beginners but agreed this time. Seiichi didn't care who judged him, and Altria reacted like he was completely reckless. The guild hinted her attitude came from surviving serious danger before. Altria cooled off, apologized, and began explaining the trial tasks. She said the evaluation had different kinds of work, like heavy-duty jobs and escort-style requests. Their first stop was an orphanage, and Sara stayed behind because she was good with that kind of helping. A nun told them not to ask questions because the payment was generous. Seiichi left with Altria for the next assignment. While walking, they passed kids playing. One kid fell and scraped a leg, and Altria immediately helped clean the wound and warned it would sting. Soon after, debris dropped nearby, and Seiichi noticed Altria was already thinking defensively, like she always expects something to go wrong. Then they reached a demolition job. Altria tried giving instructions, but Seiichi ignored them and brought the whole building down in one move. Altria rushed in anyway, annoyed but still protecting him. She said this is exactly why she works alone. Partners always create problems. Seiichi came out coughing and complaining about dust, and Altria snapped, warning that ignoring teamwork can get everyone killed. She calmed down right after and admitted she came on too strong, then walked off. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Seiichi's classmates had been training hard for 5 months. The instructors claimed it was to prepare for war, but the truth was, the students weren't meant to fight in wars at all. They were being shaped into Demon Lord fighters for reasons nobody explained clearly, and the teachers kept repeating that they didn't want the heroes to die. Back to Seiichi's tests, one task sounded easy: take a dog for a walk. It turned out to be a wolf, and it dragged Seiichi around like he was the one on a leash. The owner joked like it was adorable, which annoyed Seiichi. During that, someone teased Altria, saying she'd been smiling more lately and asking if Seiichi caused it. Altria got flustered and insisted she was just supervising. That night, Seiichi and Sara returned to the guild for their payment. Since they had nowhere to sleep, Altria offered them her place, saying it was comfortable and the food was good. They agreed, and Altria continued supervising more of Seiichi's trials after that. Eventually, Altria announced the last evaluation: collect 10 medicinal herbs as fast as possible. Seiichi sprinted off without listening properly. When it was time to show results, everyone else displayed the correct herbs, but Seiichi returned with rare materials instead. Altria told him the goal was herbs, not loot. Seiichi claimed he couldn't find any, and Altria pointed out the herbs were right near him. He grabbed some quickly, but only came back with 5, meaning he needed 5 more. Seiichi went back into the forest, searched for a long time, and still mostly found rare items instead of herbs. While resting, he overheard 3 people talking about a trap they set up to lure a human in. They mentioned sneaking into human territory without orders and expected rewards for it anyway. Seiichi stepped out and asked about herbs, not realizing how bad it looked. The group assumed he heard everything and decided he couldn't leave alive. They introduced themselves and revealed they worked under Leia, a commander from the demon army. Leia summoned a huge troll-like monster and sent it straight at Seiichi's face, confident he'd die. Instead, Seiichi stopped the attack. He explained he used a skill that turned the enemy's power back on itself. Then he crushed their weapons with his bare hands and asked again about the herbs like he still didn't care about their threats. That scared them badly, and they fled, promising revenge later. Seiichi returned to Altria with the missing herbs, plus extra rare materials he wasn't supposed to collect. He looked completely drained. Altria told him to focus better next time, and handed him the herbs he still needed. Seiichi commented on her strength, but she said there was still one last step left. Elsewhere, underground, Leia punished her own team for acting on their own. They explained they had planted teleport spells to weaken humans by sending them into a magic-filled dungeon. Leia was shocked and even felt sorry for the humans who might get dragged there. She then ordered the disobedient members to be hit 500 times. Back in the city, Seiichi and Sara waited for the final test. A guard checked on them and, hearing Altria's name, said she was a genuinely good person and asked them to treat her right. Seiichi and Sara agreed, calling her a friend. When Altria arrived, she seemed surprised they knew the guard. The final test was to defeat 10 slimes. Altria asked about Sara's weapon, and Sara said she fights with her hands. The slimes appeared, and Altria sent Seiichi forward. He drew his sword, ready to strike. Then the slimes suddenly disappeared once they reached a certain area. Altria stopped everything and explained that spells were hidden around the site, meaning something serious was happening. She told them to return and report it immediately. As they hurried, Altria stepped on a trigger spell and activated a teleport. Since Seiichi and Sara were holding onto her, all 3 got pulled into the transfer together. They landed in an unknown place, and a dragon appeared, saying it had finally smelled humans again after a long time. Altria admitted she didn't know where they were, and said if she'd been alone, she might have escaped. Seiichi said he grabbed her hand without thinking, and Sara said they followed because they wanted to help her. Altria was honestly touched, then told them to move fast and find a way back. She gave them a guidance stone that could help them regroup if separated and would glow red if someone was in danger. But right after that, Altria stepped on a hidden trap. A wall shot up between them, splitting the group so Seiichi and Sara were on one side, and Altria was on the other. Altria tried breaking through, failed, and decided to retreat to search for another route. Seiichi and Sara were stuck on one side of a giant wall. Seiichi got mad and punched the wall, but it didn't even crack. All he did was hurt his own hand. Sara reminded him about the guidance stone. Before they could even figure out how to use it, the stone lit up, floated into the air, and shot straight into the wall, showing Altria was definitely beyond that barrier. Since they couldn't break through, Sara noticed another route behind them, and they took it. Meanwhile, Altria was fighting for her life. A huge zombie-like monster slammed her hard and left her bleeding on the ground. Even then, she refused to lose. She forced herself up, used a powerful slash, and finally took it down. Right after winning, she started worrying about Seiichi and Sara and hoped all three of them would make it out safely. Back with Seiichi and Sara, the dungeon paths were confusing and easy to get lost in. They followed Saria's idea and went to a certain room. A treasure chest was sitting there. Seiichi didn't trust it and walked past. Sara asked why, and he said it looked like a trap. He was right. The chest suddenly shook, popped out arms and legs, and sprinted at them like a monster. Seiichi used Aquabind and smashed it. As soon as it broke, a smaller chest appeared. Inside was a book that explained the chest's sad backstory. It used to be important for holding dungeon treasure, but newer chests replaced it. Over time, it learned magic, grew limbs, and turned into a wandering creature. Humans even started using chests like that to summon monsters. The story made Seiichi and Sara feel bad for it. They also found a cursed item, a ring that basically makes your bad luck twice as bad. Seiichi understood it was almost useless because it only causes problems. Then the guidance stone turned red, which meant Altria was in danger. At the same time, they saw a vision of Altria standing in front of a huge gate. With no other way forward, she went in, and the gate shut behind her. Inside, a massive black dragon appeared and acted like Altria was food. Altria attacked anyway, swinging her weapon and refusing to give up. Somewhere else, Leia was angry at her own squad for disobeying orders. She warned them that this black dragon was insanely strong, one of the Demon Lord's top fighters, and anyone who faced it would be hit with terrible misfortune. Seiichi realized Altria was in serious trouble and followed the guidance stone. But again, it led them to another wall. Seiichi punched it again and again until his hand was badly messed up. But the wall still didn't break. Altria was losing. The dragon respected her strength but kept overpowering her. Even when she used her strongest move, it slammed her into the wall and used a crystal-like weapon to smash her body. Altria felt like she was about to die, and wished she could see Seiichi and Sara one more time. Then she heard Seiichi calling her name. Seiichi and Sara finally reached her. Sara checked Altria's condition, and Seiichi went straight for the wall. This time, when he hit it with everything he had, it finally shattered. They got to Altria, but she couldn't stand because her injuries were too bad. Sara told Seiichi to help heal her. Seiichi handed Sara a healing potion and told her to stay with Altria. Then Seiichi turned to the dragon. He was furious. He blamed the dragon for everything Altria suffered. The dragon basically told him he wasn't leaving alive. Seiichi drew his sword and went in. The dragon threw fire toward Sara, but Seiichi used instant movement to dodge it. Then the dragon switched to a weird space-bending magic that made its attacks harder to avoid. Seiichi checked its stats and realized its magic power was around 5,000 way above normal. The dragon got serious. Seiichi suddenly felt his body stop listening to him, and the dragon grabbed him and slammed him into a wall. Seiichi hit the ground bleeding and confused, wondering why his resistance skills weren't saving him. When the dragon started charging its strongest spell, Seiichi stopped rushing blindly and forced himself to think. Sara shouted that the spell looked like one Seiichi could reflect. Seiichi knew reflection alone wouldn't win, so he used a massive water counterattack that flooded the area and swallowed the dragon. The dragon tried to attack again, but Seiichi kept dodging and waited for the right moment. Then a brand new sword skill appeared, and he rushed in with clean, direct strikes that hit properly one after another. The dragon said something unexpected, that it only wanted to live peacefully with the Demon Lord, and then it suddenly disappeared, ending the fight. Seiichi was completely drained. A treasure chest appeared with the dragon's loot, and Seiichi's level started rising. Sara came over, asked if he was okay, and told him she had used the herbs to treat Altria. Altria was asleep now and would wake up soon, which relieved Seiichi. Then the real problem hit them. They still didn't know how to leave the dungeon. Seiichi panicked and started running around looking for an exit while collecting anything valuable. He found a black dragon jewel that said eating it would boost his physical and magic stats, so he ate it and gained a special magic. He also found cloth and a book, basically the dragon's life story. The book explained why the dragon hated humans. Long ago, it guarded a place where powerful materials were made. Humans attacked it to steal everything. The Demon Lord protected the dragon, but later humans killed the Demon Lord. After that, the dragon got sealed inside the dungeon, stuck for ages, full of anger and missing the demon lord. When Seiichi finished reading, he started crying because the dragon's life was honestly tragic. Right after that, an explosion happened and Seiichi felt his hair almost get burned. He realized Mr. Sheep had arrived again. A message congratulated Seiichi for clearing the dungeon, but also said he was slowly losing his humanity, which made Seiichi feel sick inside. Mr. Sheep complained that the dragon never got to live peacefully, and said he'd stop interfering for a while and let them do things their own way. Using their new magic, Seiichi and Sara escaped and returned to the guild. Altria woke up while Seiichi was still carrying her. She wanted to be put down, but Sara said her stamina still wasn't back, so it wasn't safe yet. Altria apologized, saying her bad luck always drags others into trouble. When she checked her status, her luck value was insanely negative, shocking Seiichi. Sara explained the truth. Altria has been cursed with horrible luck since birth, and anyone who stays close to her gets hit by the same bad luck too. That hurt Altria because it meant she believes she ruins people's lives just by being near them. Seiichi refused to accept that. He made it clear that nobody should be forced to carry someone else's curse, and he wasn't going to abandon her because of it. When Seiichi, Sara, and Altria made it back to the guild, Altria asked what everyone had been doing. The staff said they'd been collecting info all over the city to find them, mainly because they wanted friends to be reunited safely. Ares looked honestly relieved they came back, and Altria couldn't understand why anyone would feel happy about her, of all people. Seiichi tried to tell her the truth. The people she thinks she ruins, with her bad luck, don't hate her. The guild members weren't scared of her, and her curse hadn't caused problems for them. In fact, they liked her. The second Altria heard that, she broke down and ran outside crying. Nobody got it, and Seiichi just stood there confused until Sara told him to chase her. Around the same time, on the demon side, Lai showed up and said someone had taken down one of their super strong fighters. Her squad didn't believe her because it sounded impossible. Lai didn't know who did it, but she knew it was a serious blow against the demons, and they started wondering what kind of person could pull that off. Seiichi searched the city for Altria using the guidance stone. During that search, a woman named Adriana stopped him. She asked if he understood how dangerous Altria's bad luck was. Seiichi said he already knew and he still wanted to stay beside Altria because she mattered to him. Adriana asked for his help, and after that, he kept looking. He ended up back where he did his first guild test. The building he destroyed earlier was still in pieces, like a reminder of how careless he can be. After looking around, he finally found Altria sitting alone, quiet and broken. Seiichi asked what was wrong. Altria asked him something heavy, if people still needed her at all. Seiichi said yes, people actually liked her and wanted her around. But Altria wasn't asking only about people. She wanted to know if the people she personally cared about saw her as important too. Seiichi realized she was scared of being a burden. He remembered what Adriana hinted at: stay close and don't leave her alone. So he hugged her from behind and promised he'd stay with her. He told her that whenever she felt like she didn't belong, he'd be there and he would protect her no matter what. It was the kind of emotional promise people blurt out when they see someone hurting. Altria started crying. Some guild members showed up nearby, and Sara asked if Seiichi was okay. Ares told everyone not to worry, because Altria would come back with Seiichi. While Seiichi held her, he tried to tell himself he was only doing it to comfort her. But then, he noticed her scent and quickly pushed that thought away. After Altria calmed down a bit, Seiichi brought up her curse. He asked her to hold out her hand. Then he took out a ring he found in the dungeon and slipped it onto her finger. He told her it was supposed to work opposite of her bad luck, like it would flip her luck from terrible to good and weaken the curse. Altria wasn't sure it was real. Seiichi held her hands and basically told her to stop doubting. For now he'd stay with her, and she'd finally live without constant misfortune. To Altria, that didn't sound like magic talk. It sounded like a love confession. She turned bright red, shoved him away, and ran again. Seiichi stood there totally lost. Only then did he realize he'd said something super serious without meaning to. He decided to leave it alone for now and just hope she was okay. A while later, Seiichi had breakfast with Sara. He looked stressed. He admitted he didn't understand what was going on, because every time he tried to speak with Altria, she avoided him like he was dangerous. He wondered if she hated him. Sara told him humans are experts at reading situations wrong, so he shouldn't jump to conclusions. Then Sara went to the orphanage, while Seiichi went to gather info about the world and his classmates. At the guild, the leaders kept trying to push him into training programs. Seiichi kept refusing because he didn't want to become part of another plan. He didn't understand, he wanted answers. Eventually, they mentioned newly summoned heroes and reminded him that the heroes were meant to fight the demon lord. They sent him to the royal library and even handed him a map. In the palace, the king complained the heroes weren't trained well. A mage suggested sending them to a high-level academy, since they're young and easy to control. When the king asked what if they refuse, the mage suggested using restraints. They ended the discussion fast, like it was normal. In the royal library, Seiichi noticed every book made demons look like pure evil. But from what he'd seen, humans had done horrible things too. He started feeling like he couldn't tell who the real bad guys were anymore. While reading, his skills kept unlocking more magic, then ice, then more until he had every element at the highest rank. Instead of feeling happy, he felt trapped, like being normal was becoming impossible. Later, he got hungry, bought a small animal painting from a girl, and followed food smells to a cafe. He hesitated because he didn't want another weird place, but the cafe was calm and the food was insanely good. While talking with the people there, he learned something terrifying. In this world, putting a ring on a woman's finger is basically a serious "I love you" statement. And if you back out afterward, it can turn ugly. That's when Seiichi realized why Altria kept running. He accidentally made it look like a proposal. Elsewhere, Altria admitted to Adriana that she liked Seiichi, and they started planning how to get closer to him. That night, Altria kissed Seiichi and confessed. Before he could react, Sara showed up and calmly told him to respond properly. Seiichi ended up crying because he finally understood something. He had touched the most dangerous dungeon, women. After that, Seiichi and Altria actually talked again. Altria told him he could call her by a special nickname only close people can use. Seiichi finally confessed clearly without running away from it, and they shared a short kiss. Just like that, the situation became real. Seiichi now had 2 wives, and the 3 of them had to live with that new reality. Almost immediately, the guildmaster, Adriana, and others appeared and started celebrating like they expected it. Then, while Seiichi tried to eat, the team leader and others began dancing like it was a party. The reason was simple. Seiichi still didn't have a mount, and high-rank adventurers are expected to ride one. The leader handed him a map showing where mounts were sold. Seiichi went alone to the stable. The owner asked if he was joining a race where you can even use weapons, and where mounts are expensive. The owner showed him a famous horse, then pointed out another super fast mount that looked ridiculous. While showing it, the creature suddenly collapsed, and the owner casually said it was dead. He explained, it was so dumb it could die from forgetting to breathe, loud noises, or tiny injuries, basically a disaster. Then the owner brought out another animal and warned it was wild and not worth buying. Seiichi looked once and said it straight. It wasn't a horse, it was a donkey. The donkey immediately started kicking the owner hard. Seiichi didn't know whether to step in. Then Seiichi's ancient language skill activated, and he realized the donkey was literally talking. It was warning everyone to stay away and saying it would choose its own owner. The donkey noticed Seiichi could understand it and asked if he could hear it. Seiichi said yes. The donkey invited him closer and then attacked anyway. Seiichi dodged, grabbed its leg mid-kick, and lifted it so it couldn't keep fighting. After struggling, the donkey gave up, apologized, and said Seiichi was the only one worthy to be its master. Seiichi accepted like this kind of madness was normal now. The donkey introduced itself as Lulu. The stable owner got furious, but Lulu kicked him so hard he flew into the wall. After that, Seiichi and Lulu left together. Lulu was having the best day ever. The second she got outside, she sniffed the air and swore she smelled food. She said she was starving, so Seiichi bought her something to eat. Lulu thanked him like he was the nicest person alive. They ate together, and honestly, the food was way too good for a random place. A little later, they heard yelling. It was the older brother of the girl Seiichi had bought a drawing from before. He was scolding her, saying she was wasting her talent. Seiichi stepped in, and the girl introduced herself as Mi. Her brother explained, Mi was entering a huge art contest next month, the biggest one in the whole kingdom. Seiichi said, Mi's painting was beautiful, which made me happy. Then the brother got jealous and showed his painting too. Lulu looked at it and straight up said it was just a triangle. Seiichi agreed without thinking, and the brother completely froze from embarrassment. Mi introduced her brother properly as Clayburger, and Clayburger went back to hyping Mi up for the contest. Seiichi randomly said he wanted to join the competition too, mostly because winning would boost his confidence. Clayburger explained the prizes, and the most important detail was this: Even 5th place could win a legendary fish that tastes insane. The moment Lulu heard legendary fish, she locked in and demanded they enter. Competition day came fast. Altria and Sara showed up to support Seiichi. When Seiichi saw the other racers and their mounts, he immediately knew this wasn't going to be a normal race. The announcer showed up, Lorna Jerkus, a famous Valkyrie, and the crowd went crazy. She announced the rewards, and they were ridiculous. One prize was literally a photo of a Valkyrie captain, and the grand prize was spending a whole day with all the Valkyries. The audience basically lost their minds. Lulu was the only one thinking clearly. She told Seiichi they were only going for the food prize, not the insane grand prize. Before the race started, Me and Clayburger came up again, warning Seiichi the race was dangerous and asking why he didn't quit. Seiichi said people had helped him before, so now he wanted to help others too. Then he got ready. Rules were simple: leave the gate, do 1 lap, come back. Weapons were allowed, because this world is wild like that. The gate opened and everyone charged out. Some mounts literally dropped dead right away for dumb reasons, like it was normal. But Seiichi and Lulu didn't move much. Lulu was crawling forward. Seiichi asked what was wrong, and Lulu admitted she forgot to eat breakfast because she was too excited about the prize fish. Seiichi couldn't believe it, but he fed her immediately. By then, everyone else was far ahead. Then the race turned into chaos. One racer summoned a giant wolf, and everyone panicked because nobody said monsters were allowed. It stopped feeling like a race and started feeling like a battle. And then Lulu suddenly exploded with speed. Even the announcer started saying the race was getting too dangerous, but Lulu was already flying across the track. People watched it all on the big screen, and Altria and Sara cheered like crazy. Seiichi told Lulu to slow down, but she said she ate a speed fruit and couldn't control herself anymore. Other racers started saying the donkey was going to get eaten. Lulu didn't care. She said she can go anywhere. Then she did the most insane thing. She jumped over everyone and smashed straight into the wolves. The wolves went flying and died instantly. After that, she rushed the special Hell Wolf that was meant to kill Seiichi, tapped it hard on the nose, and it dropped too. When Seiichi and Lulu reached the far side, the other racers were terrified. Some quit on the spot, saying fighting those two would be suicide. The announcer tried to stop the race, but Seiichi kept going, and they crossed the finish first. Everyone cheered like it was a festival. Mi said she felt inspired and couldn't wait to draw again. But Lulu started crying because she didn't win 5th place and didn't get the fish. Seiichi tried to calm her down and told her winning is still good. Lulu didn't buy it until Seiichi promised they could try again another time, because there's always better food somewhere. Lulu hugged him, then started glowing. In front of everyone, Lulu transformed into a human girl. Seiichi panicked and quickly covered her up with clothes. Altria got furious and demanded to know what Seiichi did. Seiichi explained Lulu ate an evolution fruit, so she changed. Sara backed him up, and to prove it, Sara even turned back into a gorilla for a second, showing it's possible. Things calmed down. Altria helped Lulu settle in, and everyone started liking her. Then out of nowhere, a magic gate opened. 2 people appeared, used a spell to lock Seiichi down, and dragged him away even though he protested. At the Demon Palace, the demon generals held a meeting. Leia shocked everyone by saying she wanted an alliance with the Kingdom of Wembley. She said a single human had defeated the Demon Lord's strongest fighter, and that human was Seiichi. One general argued about a prophecy, but Leia said she'd risk her life to protect her people. Most of the generals supported her, and the one who disagreed stormed out. Later, Seiichi didn't get to choose what happened next. He was escorted straight to Archishell Castle, and once the binding magic was taken off, it wasn't freedom, it was a new problem. They guided him into a tightly secured combat yard built for elite training. The moment he stepped in, the atmosphere made it obvious. This place wasn't for questions, it was for obedience. That's when Louise, the Valkyrie's captain, arrived and instantly proved why everyone feared her. She tore through the fighters around her like they were practice dummies. Someone shoved a wooden training sword into Seiichi's hands, basically telling him, "You're up." Seiichi tried to say he wanted to leave and go back, but Louise didn't even react. She treated his words like background noise and kept the session moving. At the same time, in a totally different location, Barbador Academy was filling up with fresh students, including people connected to Seiichi. A few loudmouths started acting like they'd already made it, mocking others and bragging that they were strong enough to handle monsters now. It escalated fast. First they asked for a friendly match. Then they started hyping up the idea of a challenge where everyone competes over who can take down the most monsters. before it could turn into a disaster. The student council president stepped forward and shut the entire thing down with one sharp slap and a cold look. She basically made it clear that reckless confidence isn't bravery, it's stupidity. The troublemakers backed off immediately, suddenly remembering that real strength doesn't need constant bragging. Back at the castle, Seiichi ended up directly paired against Louise. She swung first, expecting an easy hit, but Seiichi slipped away. That alone made her pause, because most people don't dodge her cleanly. Seiichi didn't act cocky about it. He knew it only looked smooth from the outside. Louise then raised the intensity and came again, harder and faster, trying to force him into a mistake. But the strange thing was, Seiichi kept avoiding everything. Each strike missed by a narrow margin, like he was moving half a second before impact. The watching Valkyries started getting uneasy because it didn't feel like luck anymore. It looked like he was reading the fight in advance. Louise realized her normal serious approach still wasn't landing, so she shifted toward an all-in final tactic, aiming to end it with a decisive move. That's when Seiichi's senses changed. It wasn't a new weapon or a sudden power blast, it was his awareness sharpening. His instincts and his enemy detection ability synced together, widening his perception. His reactions got faster, his timing became cleaner, and everything around him seemed easier to track. He dodged at the perfect moment, stepped in, and struck Louise's arm with a kick. Her sword flew out, hitting the ground with a hard clatter. Before anyone could breathe, Seiichi had his practice blade pressed to her neck. The message was clear, the fight was over, and he'd won. The training yard went silent. Louise stared at him like she couldn't process it. Then completely unexpectedly, she asked to treat him like a master. Seiichi looked confused, because he never came there to lead anyone. And he definitely didn't plan on becoming some sword instructor for the Valkyries. A Valkyrie named Claudia pulled him aside for a private talk. She didn't waste time. She told him his strength was abnormal, and then she brought Louise over properly. Claudia explained why Louise was such a big deal. Louise wasn't using typical magic skills at all. She couldn't rely on spells or special ability systems like others. Instead, she created her own sword methods from pure talent, repetition, and self-made technique. Seiichi pointed out how rare that kind of fighter is. Claudia added that only one person in the entire kingdom could genuinely match Louise, Bladen the Black. Louise then apologized for the master thing, but Seiichi didn't push back. And that's when Louise surprised him again by thanking him almost like he'd rescued her. Seiichi didn't understand until she explained what she meant. She'd lived most of her life isolated. She was so far above everyone that people stopped treating her normally and started treating her like a danger. Being unbeatable sounded impressive, but it left her alone at the top. Seiichi understood that kind of loneliness and didn't dismiss it. He allowed her to call him that title, partly because it seemed to give her some relief. Louise responded with intense enthusiasm, promising she would stick close, no matter what's so intense. It sounded like she only knew how to connect with people through combat. Right after that, the situation flipped. A maid burst in shouting that the king had been attacked. People told Seiichi to stay out of it because he was an outsider and didn't belong in castle matters. Seiichi hesitated just long enough to consider walking away, then decided he couldn't. He used a wide-range perception ability, something like world vision, to pinpoint the attacker inside the castle. The shocking part was the assassin wasn't some hardened killer. It was a child. Seiichi confronted her and made it clear how wrong that was. The child, Origa, attacked anyway with a dagger. Seiichi caught it easily and stopped her from hurting herself further. A reflection-style skill appeared during the exchange, and he threw the weapon back in a controlled way, pinning her clothing to the wall instead of injuring her. When she tried again, Seiichi ended it with a precise strike that knocked her unconscious. He carried her back himself. When the Valkyries arrived, they were stunned that the attacker was a kid. Louise ordered Lorna to investigate, and Lorna reminded everyone that appearances don't mean safety. Claudia added she learned that lesson from Ares: danger isn't always loud or obvious. Then the worst news hit. The king wasn't waking up. The dagger carried a curse, eternal stasis, that forces the victim into permanent sleep. The Valkyries were crushed. Seiichi demanded to see the king immediately. When he finally saw the king's face, he froze. It was the same man Seiichi had casually met earlier at a cafe, which made the situation feel even more unreal. Floria, Louise's brother and head of the magic division, said he'd treated the wound but couldn't remove the curse. Seiichi didn't accept that as the end. He said if nobody else could fix it, he would try. He activated a creativity-based magic method and essentially designed a solution in his mind. He imagined the curse being peeled away, pictured spiritual forces, muttered strange phrases, and repeated the idea until the magic around the king shifted like something had snapped into place. The result was immediate. The king woke up. The curse was gone. The Valkyries erupted with relief. The king offered Seiichi any reward he wanted. Seiichi refused at first, then said he would make just one request. Elsewhere, politics moved as well. Another king talked about sending knights to Barbador Academy because it was seen as weak. Back at the academy, bullies tried to start problems again, but Kanizuki stepped in and pointed out that the people they were mocking had already grown stronger. Since enrolling, some backed off on the spot, others didn't. Back with Seiichi, it was revealed his request wasn't about money or status, it was about Louise. He wanted her to learn proper sportsmanship, and not stay trapped in that lonely invincible weapon role. Louise and Claudia later appeared around Seiichi and his group, showing that change had already started. In another scene, Altria asked Sara if she felt nervous with Seiichi surrounded by so many beautiful Valkyries. Sara stayed calm and basically said, "Seiichi always creates weird outcomes nobody expects." Altria agreed whenever Seiichi is involved, normal rules stop applying. Later, Seiichi spent time with Ranzerf in a scene that was oddly casual for such a dangerous world. They were washing each other's backs like it was no big deal. During that quiet moment, Ranzerf opened up about his dream. He wanted a future where humans and demons can talk without fear, where race and nationality don't decide someone's worth, where equality isn't just a word people use when it benefits them, and where wars eventually end. It was idealistic, maybe unrealistic, but it matched Ranzerf perfectly, because he genuinely believed peace could be more than a fantasy. Later, Zakia confronted the king and asked if it was true that the knights were being shipped off to Barbador Academy. The king didn't answer directly. He reacted like the question itself was disrespectful. Ruben looked shocked, and Helio snapped at Zakia for even challenging the king. Zakia pushed again, wanting to know what the real plan was. Were the knights only being turned into tools for fighting? Helio responded like this was some honor the Empire was gifting them, and she talked about putting special bracelets on the knights as if it was normal and not terrifying. Before the argument could go further, someone fired an arrow straight at the king. Zakia steps in, like catching a tossed ball. The king ordered the attacker arrested and told Helio to lock down the area. Then he asked the obvious question, were demons involved? Helio said she'd heard a dangerous rumor someone named Rang was trying to work with demons. The king took that as a crisis. Either they interfere immediately, or it becomes war. Helio, way too confident, basically bragged that she had already handled it. When the king asked what she meant, she proudly admitted she had sent out killers, assassins, and dark executioner types who wouldn't return until everything was solved. The way Helio and Helena agreed made it feel like murder was just paperwork to them. Back with Seiichi, he suddenly found himself surrounded by Louise, Altria, Sara, and Lulu. He didn't understand why they were all in one place. Floria explained he gathered them because they all wanted to see Seiichi at the same time. That quickly turned awkward. Altria admitted she felt jealous watching Seiichi constantly surrounded by beautiful women. Sara immediately pointed out that Altria was basically admitting it out loud. The moment Louise appeared, Altria assumed Seiichi had added another woman and tried to smack him, but Seiichi stopped her and clarified the misunderstanding. Introductions followed, and they only made things stranger. Sara clearly stated she was Seiichi's wife. Floria complimented her. Altria awkwardly called herself Lulu's friend. Lulu then declared, with full confidence, that she had dedicated her entire life to magic. Floria looked like his brain froze. He was trying to process how one guy could casually have a wife, a jealous friend, and a walking chaos party of relationships around him. He even called Seiichi dangerous, not in a fighting way, but in a "your life is a disaster" way. Seiichi quietly wondered what kind of reputation he was building. Meanwhile, the child assassin Auriga was being held in custody. Lorna tried to interrogate her in the worst way possible, like a cheap drama. She used food as bait, teased Auriga with the smell, and then ate it in front of her like hunger was supposed to break someone mentally. Seiichi finally snapped. He barged in and demanded they stop treating this like a joke. Louise stepped in too and shut Lorna down immediately by canceling her food for the day. Lorna burst into tears, but Louise didn't budge. Instead, Louise removed the cloth, covering Auriga's face, and gave her food properly. Seiichi told Auriga she could eat as much as she needed, and she did like someone who hadn't been treated like a person in a long time. That's when Louise revealed the real problem. Auriga was wearing a slave collar magic gear designed to force obedience. Seiichi realized that collar was likely the reason she attacked Rang in the first place. When Auriga was asked if it could be removed, she said no. Then the collar suddenly cracked on its own. Everyone froze. Louise explained that the collar had a feature like that. Seiichi called it what it really was: cruelty built into a system. The king arrived and declared Auriga's mission a failure. Helio acted like the collar had protected secrets, then coldly suggested Auriga could kill herself if she wanted. The king even gave permission for her to be executed if needed. It was clear they didn't see Auriga as a child. They saw her as disposable. Elsewhere, Zakia had already captured the earlier attacker, a man named Shin. His motive wasn't politics or power, it was revenge. He had watched an innocent demon girl, someone who sold flowers, carried no weapon, and posed no threat, get killed for no reason. That moment broke him, and he decided the entire system deserved payback. Back in the present, while someone else was raging and destroying things, Seiichi tried again to free Auriga from the collar. It wouldn't come off. He remembered how he had removed the king's curse before using his creative magic, and tried to do something similar. But this time, the magic circle in his hand shrank like his power was unstable if he didn't focus carefully. He realized he couldn't just wish with it. He had to shape it with real intent. Then he remembered he had a reward or special trigger he could use. He formed an image in his mind, President Lincoln, and something clicked. A new type of magic took form, freedom-focused magic. The collar shattered completely. Auriga collapsed and cried like her body finally realized it could breathe. Seiichi told her she was free now. Sara hugged her tightly, trying to give her warmth instead of more commands. Altria was still horrified, saying she couldn't believe someone would put a slave collar on a child. In the middle of all that, Lulu casually walked in and started eating Lorna's abandoned food like nothing happened. Lorna saw it and almost exploded, but Auriga started speaking before Lorna could scream. Auriga finally explained her life. She said she came from a beast cat bloodline and used to serve the Empire. As a child, she was taken from her home. Beast children were locked up while their parents were sent to detention camps. From then on, she lived alone. The Empire didn't raise those kids like students, they raised them like weapons. They were forced into brutal training classes where survival was the only graduation. The ones who made it were pushed down one path, become killers. Their loyalty was forced, their identity erased. Once they were turned into assassins, they were fitted with bracelets that locked them into a life of obedience and slaughter. Seiichi took her hand gently and told her the nightmare was over. He made it clear none of this was her fault, it was the Empire's crime. Then he did something simple, but huge. He told her she could think of him like an older brother, and he'd treat her like family. Auriga hesitated. She worried that staying with them would bring danger, because the Empire would call her a traitor. Seiichi didn't hesitate at all. He said he would protect her, because he was strong enough to do it. Then he asked Louise if Auriga staying with them was okay. Louise agreed, saying both the king and Rang also wanted Auriga protected. Seiichi finally breathed out, like he'd been holding stress in his chest the whole time. And he told Auriga, clearly and firmly, from today on, she's with them. Helia cornered Kreis for an update, wanting to know how the Demon Lord's side was shaping up. Kreis admitted his setup would need a small rewrite because Letia's daughter had unexpectedly linked arms with the king. Helia didn't even blink. She told him the scheme stays alive no matter what, and any crack in the situation should be used immediately. Karis chimed in with the bigger picture. The Demon Lord was stacking troops for a full-scale clash, and the whole camp kept yelling slogans like they were fighting for him, turning the build-up into a loud, emotional parade. While all that plotting was happening, Seiichi was back on the work-on-yourself grind. Florio was supervising his magic practice, and straight up told him his mana control had jumped to a new level. The messy, wild power from earlier was finally becoming something he could steer. And it wasn't only Seiichi anymore. Altria and Sara had started studying magic too, trying to keep up instead of just watching. Then Louise showed up, and Seiichi instantly felt the mood shift. She wasn't there to chat. She looked like someone about to step into a storm. She told Seiichi she had to leave for a mission and asked him to keep the king protected while she was gone. Seiichi asked what was happening, and Louise explained. Reports were coming in about the Black Knight, and monsters were popping up near the border. Her forces couldn't handle it alone, so she and the Valkyries were heading out to reinforce the front lines. Seiichi promised Rang would be safe under his watch. Louise seemed satisfied and left to gear up. Soon, the Valkyries were lined up and ready. Louise gave Seiichi a quick farewell, and he responded in the simplest way possible, basically telling them not to get themselves killed. Then they marched out, and the castle felt strangely quiet without them. Seiichi threw himself back into training, and the change was obvious. The flow inside him wasn't just stronger, it was smoother, like a river that stopped flooding and started running deep. Florio even said Seiichi had reached the point where he could pick up a control-type technique, which made Seiichi feel awkward, almost guilty, like he was growing into something too dangerous. Right then, a new ability surfaced in his status, Endless Hell. The name alone messed with his head. He froze, stared at it, and suddenly cracked emotionally. He started crying, saying his magic was getting too extreme, like he was becoming a walking disaster instead of a person. Florio tried to steady him, telling him he was improving and not losing himself. Before that moment could settle, the two strongest knights, Eris and Josel, showed up. Seiichi asked what they wanted. They said they were escorting someone the king specifically requested. The visitors stepped in, and Florio's reaction gave everything away. It was Barnaba, a holy mage. Seiichi didn't recognize the name, but Florio practically worshipped him. He snapped that Barnaba was the top mage alive, the kind of person who'd mastered every branch of magic. Florio even admitted he'd bought Barnaba's books 3 separate times. One set to study, one to archive, one to lend out. Barnaba smiled like he found Florio's obsession adorable, and also like he'd known him forever. Seiichi got the feeling this wasn't a random visit, it was personal. Not long after, Rang arrived and greeted Eris and Josel, and Seiichi muttered under his breath that those two knights were insane. Barnaba and Rang talked, and Rang looked stunned. He asked Florio how he even knew Barnaba, and Florio revealed the twist. Barnaba and Florio had once been the king's instructors. Rang tried to be respectful and offered Barnaba a normal chair, but Alice casually presented something that looked more like a torture chair. Barnaba sat down happily anyway, like the whole thing amused him. Rang asked why Barnaba came, and Barnaba started talking about his academy. Florio quietly told Seiichi that Barnaba ranked above him there. Cut to the academy. Kazuki was taking on 4 guards at the same time and winning, while students watched like it was a legend happening live. Barnaba told Rang that the heroes summoned from another world had been causing problems at school. That phrase, another world, hit Seiichi hard, like a reminder he couldn't escape. Then a forest guard messenger burst in with urgent news. Thousands of monsters had appeared near the forest, and they weren't weak ones. Rang looked shaken by both the number and the levels. Barnaba tried to calm him, pointing out the Valkyries were active, but Rang replied that most forces were already tied up at the border. At the border, Louise and the Valkyries faced a packed wall of monsters. Louise took one look and ordered the Black Knight to cut them down before they could regroup. She dismounted, pulled her blade, and the battlefield erupted. When the monsters surged, Louise answered with a sweeping water-infused slash that wiped out everything rushing her. Claudia ordered the Valkyries to move in, and the knights joined the fight. The Black Knight even acknowledged Louise's usual dominance. Then Claudia arrived with the kind of message that makes your stomach drop. Monsters were also moving on the capital. The mood shifted instantly from battle plan to, this could collapse fast. Elsewhere, Helia and Karis were talking like they'd already won. Helia pointed out that the Black Knights were concentrated in one place, meaning Tilbert was left thin and vulnerable. She admitted a few wildcards might interfere, but Karis believed raw numbers would decide it. Sure enough, near Tilbert's border, a monstrous army stood arranged like a real invasion force. Seiichi and the others viewed it from above. Altria looked stunned and said she'd never seen anything that massive. Seiichi agreed and added the levels were high enough to be terrifying. Sara, calm but firm, basically said they'd wipe them out. Seiichi blinked at her and asked how she planned to fight now that she was in human form. And in the back of his mind, he felt the shift. This wasn't adventuring anymore, this was war. Then, Lulu clung to Seiichi's arm, saying she was scared. Seiichi told her fear makes sense in a moment like this. But Lulu's fear was very Lulu. She said if the capital falls, there won't be any food left, and that's the true horror. Seiichi stared at her like, seriously? Lulu nodded like it was obvious, joked she'd fight even God for her meals, then laughed like the world wasn't burning. Auriga stepped forward next, surprisingly serious. She said she cared about this country and wanted to fight to protect it. Seiichi told her not to push herself too far. Auriga asked, almost shyly, if he'd pat her head when everything was over. Seiichi promised instantly. Then Tilbert's forces arrived, and some of them immediately started wrecking things in their path, causing damage like they were showing off instead of defending anything. Seiichi asked why they were destroying the place they were supposed to protect. That's when Josel went full main character. He launched into the air, shouting that with adventurers here, monsters don't stand a chance. He laughed like this was a festival. Then he dropped back down, and his body started bulking up, muscles swelling, eyes turning red like he'd activated a berserk power-up. He called it his full strength and his justice, then smashed a monster with ridiculous ease. A demon tried to take him from behind, but Aris intercepted and scolded him for getting careless. Josel regained focus and unleashed another massive blow, yelling that this was his true power, way beyond what he'd used before. Seiichi stared, half shocked, and asked if that was really Josel's real strength. Barnaba calmly responded that someone doesn't become guild leader for no reason. Then the battlefield turned into pure chaos in the weirdest way possible. Aris cut through enemies like she was slicing paper. One adventurer fought with a bottle of milk like it was a legendary weapon. Another stripped down and shot bizarre light beams. Someone else swung a weapon bigger than their entire body, and Seiichi couldn't even understand how they lifted it. Then Claude stepped in with a sword and started cutting monsters down with clean, controlled technique like a real fighter. Seiichi finally muttered, the only honest thought he had left, at least one person here actually knows what they're doing. The Ro clan finally jumped into the fight and showed their hidden move. They used a special hand-to-hand style and wiped out monsters using only their fists, in a way that didn't even look normal. After the monsters were cleared, the adventurers walked into the city like they were winners in a big parade. Seiichi smiled because he was honestly impressed by how strong everyone was. Then a crazy surprise happened. The Beast King showed up with Noah, who Seiichi thought was just a cafe owner. Noah apologized, acted like he was ready to die, and then suddenly beat the Beast King super easily. Seiichi was shocked, because Noah didn't seem like that kind of person at all. They later found out another huge part of the fight came from one giant punch like a gorilla punch that sent monsters flying. Then Altria stepped in and used dungeon magic to freeze a big group of monsters into huge blocks of ice. The ice was so massive, even Noah yelled in shock. Altria then smashed the frozen monsters apart with her sword, and everyone cheered. After that, Lulu ran in yelling that nobody better get between her and food. She rushed forward and finished the last monsters with one big hit. Auriga also fought using assassin moves. After helping, she looked at Seiichi and reminded him again about his promise to pat her head later. Next, Barnaba started blasting monsters with spell after spell, but there were still too many, so he used a huge storm spell called Chaos Cyclone. It wiped out monsters everywhere, but didn't hurt any allies, which showed how perfect his control was. Everyone started celebrating, and Seiichi said he barely did anything because everyone else handled the battle. But then bad news came. A new group of monsters appeared in the forest, and they were all boss level and much bigger than before. They were moving toward Tilbert, so the war wasn't over at all. Seiichi started thinking. They needed a giant attack that could hit only monsters and not hurt their own team. That sounds almost impossible. Then he suddenly got an idea. A giant statue of Liberty appeared, and Seiichi used his skill. Dark clouds filled the sky. At first, it looked like nothing happened, but then monsters started dropping one by one. Seiichi realized the skill only attacks the ones who truly hurt people, basically, the truly evil enemies. That ended the fight. After the battle, Seiichi's level started rising insanely fast. A person named Operil told him he had reached a super high level, and might change into a new type because of all his skills. Seiichi said he didn't even want more power. Rang thanked him and said they'd talk later after checking injuries. Then Altria, Sara, and Lulu asked Seiichi about the strange language he used, and Seiichi felt embarrassed about all the attention. Auriga came up again to remind him about the head pat promise. Seiichi finally patted her head. Someone else joked and asked for one too, and Seiichi instantly said no. Then they asked Seiichi if he would become a teacher at Barnaba's academy. Barnaba explained the armor Seiichi used wasn't normal armor, it was like a special personal helper power that even Barnaba couldn't use. And it might be stronger than Barnaba's magic. Barnaba said he could teach Seiichi to control it and asked him to join the academy. Seiichi didn't say yes right away. He had two reasons. He promised Louise he wouldn't leave until the Valkyries returned, and he didn't want to leave his friends behind. Barnaba offered a plan where everyone goes together. Sara joins as a student, Altria becomes a teacher, Lulu teaches martial arts, and Auriga stays as Seiichi's assistant. Seiichi looked at everyone, saw they agreed, and accepted the plan. They would leave together once Louise returned. After that, Seiichi spent peaceful time with everyone before leaving. He ate with Lulu, went on a calm date with Altria. and later went out with Sara, who asked to include Auriga so she wouldn't feel lonely. The three of them had fun, and Auriga held Seiichi's hand happily. Later, Auriga played with kids while Seiichi sat with Sara. Seiichi thanked Sara and told her he loved her, which made her cry. The kids got mad at Seiichi for making her cry, but then they invited him to play, and he joined in like a normal kid. Then everyone looked up and saw a huge airship in the sky announcing the winners of the art contest. Me and Clay were winners. At the ceremony, Clay showed his art, but people didn't understand it, and Lulu's comment made it more confusing. Then Me showed her winning painting. It showed me and Lulu, and she said she made it to give herself courage. She titled it The Hero. Seiichi congratulated her, and she said she would study in the city. She asked if she could draw Seiichi again later, and he promised yes. Around the same time, the Valkyries returned. Louise told Seiichi she heard he was going to the academy and said she wished she could go too. Seiichi told her she had to stay to protect the kingdom, but she could visit whenever she wanted. Elsewhere, the Demon Lord got angry because a plan was moving too slowly. Someone suggested using Barnaba's academy students to attack and gather resources for the Demon Lord. Finally, Seiichi left the city with Barnaba. Seiichi said goodbye and said he would never forget this city because it was his first one in this world. He told Barnaba the people here were kind, and he would come back someday. They arrived at Barnaba Academy. Seiichi felt thankful because he wasn't alone anymore. He had Sara, Altria, Lulu, and Auriga. Then right away, a strange man appeared. Seiichi asked who he was, and the man confidently said, "I'm a superhero." Seiichi sighed, because he could already tell more weird trouble was about to start. And that's where this video ends. Watch this following video and I'll be back with a new one.